This, we see here that Moses took and through the direction of the Lord told Aaron to prepare and go into the Holy of Holies to make an offering. And this takes place after Aaron's sons had committed sin in the holy place and had been killed. And I imagine it was probably kind of hard on Aaron at that point to take and present this, but he also knew the righteousness of God and what it took. And the part of this that I was getting was when Aaron goes into the Holy of Holies, when he enters into the place. Now, there's a big veil that is covering it, and there's no one else allowed in there. And I can imagine it's kind of a dark place, and there's the mercy seat, and God's glory and His presence is there as a cloud above the mercy seat. And as he prepares to go in, he's supposed to take a censer, and he puts coals in it, and so there's more smoke. So he takes and he puts that in there, and he waves it back and forth, and he creates the smoke. And it's like, now who's going to be seeing you? There's nothing in there. It's dark. And now he's still got to take and put this cloud, this smoke between him and God and His glory that's sitting in there before he enters in. And he takes and he puts the incense in the censer. He puts that upon the fire. Creates a great smell. This is what Jesus Christ has done for each and every one of us. He has gone before God. He is that part that is between us and God and His glory, that we're not killed as we enter in. Now the other part of this is, I believe many times as we've come into church, as we come into worship, we forget exactly the presence, the fear and the awe of God we should have as we come into this place, as we enter in before Him, because He is still the same God.
Amen.
He is still the same power.
Amen.
And He still has the same glory that He had back in those days. And we have taken it, I believe, for granted. There are those that even have flippantly used the Lord's name in vain. As we look around us this day, there's not the awe, there's not the fear of the Lord that we used to have, that there used to be. And I believe that it has caused us to drift away. And it's a little easier. You know, sin isn't quite as sharp and as painful then if you don't hear about it. If you don't have God taking and talking to you about it and really convicting you. I heard an illustration one time. This man was preaching and during a revival service, and he asked this Indian, he said, well, what's it like for you, for God to convict you? He says, you know, he said, it's like a rock with a lot of different sharp edges on it. And he says, as I sin, that rock turns and it hurts. But he says, you know, the more you continue to do that, the more rounded the edges become, the less painful it becomes. And you don't feel it quite as sharp, quite as sensitive as you used to. Are you guys getting a lot of feedback out there? It seems like I'm getting from here. Let me change mics. That was good. I shut myself completely off there. So anyway, we don't have the awe as we used to have. Well, when God created this, and when He started with the children, He went to Abraham. We go to Genesis, the 15th chapter, verses 7 through 17. Then he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee the land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? He said unto him, take a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. And he took them, all these, and divided them in the midst,
and laid each piece one against another, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down from the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know for a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And also the nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it shall come to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp that passed between the pieces. This was a covenant between God and Abram, or Abraham later as he was spoken of. Back in those days, they formed what they called covenants. It's like a contract. The New Testament could be considered Old and New Covenant. It's God with us. But anyway, God formed this covenant with Abraham. Now, in those days, many times they would take a heifer or bullock and stuff, and they would break it and cut it in half and lay it out on the ground. And both parties had to take and pass between the halves, and they would walk through the blood. And this was a very significant part, and it was very important, and it was taken very seriously, this act of covenant. Because that meant if I made covenant with Brother Bill here, that if Brother Bill, if he needed something, and he called upon our covenant relationship, I would drop whatever I was doing, whatever situation I was in, and I would go to meet his needs. I would go to minister and to help him if he called on that covenant. So you didn't enter into covenant with people just flippantly. You didn't take and just do it because it was a popular thing. It was called for a great dedication on your part. Now we see here that God is forming covenant with Abraham. But as we read the scriptures, we see that as evening came, they went through as a burning, there was a cloud that smoke went through as a burning furnace, and a burning lamp, smoking furnace and a burning lamp. But only God passed through between the halves. God knew that man was not going to be able to, Abraham was not going to be able to take and to live up to his part of covenant if God called upon him. And it was better to not even make covenant, to make a vow, than to make it and not keep it. And especially with God. And so God passed through and said, this is the covenant I'm making with you, Abraham. It's one way. I'll fulfill my part of it. You don't have to worry about your part. You just obey me. If you do go where I ask you to go, you're going to be fulfilling your part. But the covenant is with me. I am making the promise unto you. And this is the covenant that we can still call upon today, that He has with each and every one of us. Amen. We can still call upon this Abrahamic covenant in our lives. Amen. He hasn't left us. We've been grafted in. As we accept Jesus Christ into our heart and our life, we are now grafted in as part of this lineage of Abraham, all down through Jesus Christ. And so we have the same covenant, and it's a very important part. Jesus' covenant also. It is through the shedding of His blood that we are now able to take and to enter in to the Holy of Holies. When He died on the cross, the veil was rent, that we could now have access to God. And Jesus Christ acts as that smoke, that censer. As that smoke in the censer that the priest had, that as he entered into the Holy of Holies, and